Thank you guys for joining us this morning on our production workflow session. This is going to be a super informal session and pretty practical. So I don't know if there's going to be any deep revelations in this session. So if that's what you come for, you might want to head out and do the culture session. So my name, if you haven't met me, my name is Darren Cooper. I'm the technical director here at First Apostolic, and I have the privilege of leading an amazing team of volunteers that help make all of this happen that you see this week. We have an amazing staff, volunteers that make it all happen, and we're just going to talk a little bit about kind of how we got to where we're at and just some practical things that work for us. We did a tour yesterday. We're doing a tour again today. So I'm big on like Q&A, just to kind of have a little roundtable chat. So if you have questions, we'll have some time at the end that we can kind of field those questions. And we'll just be super practical and super informal, and hopefully you can walk away with some things that that'll help you. So, when people come here, a lot of times people just assume, that we, and I think Pastor Carpenter talked about it, or Pastor Erickson, I don't remember. You just see this, you see what we have here and what God's blessed us with, and it hasn't always been that way. And so I want to kind of show you kind of where we have come from and where God has brought us in the last really 10 years. So the picture I'm going to show you is probably 10 to 15 years old, maybe closer to 15. So Natalie, can we show that first picture that I have? So this is our old, in our old sanctuary up on the hill, 1723. So this was our broadcast room. And you had to get to our broadcast room, you had to literally climb a ladder into the attic. Tall people like me, you had to kind of hunch down and crawl through the attic practically to get to this room, and there was only like 3 people that could fit in this room. So it was a feat. It was mostly it wasn't very many females up there, but you can show that next picture. I think that's just another shot. Yeah. So we have come a long ways in our technology and our space. And I say that to say a lot of times people come here and look at what we have and think, well, I never could attain that, or we never could get to that point. And you can. I mean, with thankful that God's brought us, and we've learned a lot. So Brother Erickson kind of mentioned that, a lot of us are just self-taught. So we've kind of learned along the way. I told people, said, well, how does all this work? How do you make all this work? Like, we're just really good YouTubers. That's really what it comes down to. We do really good at Google and YouTube. So, but no, God's blessed us, and we're thankful to have what we have. And like I said, we are we have a great volunteer staff, and I want to talk a little bit about staff and volunteers before we get into more of the techie, geeky things, I guess. I'm a big proponent on empowering people and empowering volunteers to do what they love to do. There's nothing that brings me more joy than to see a Gen Zer or a millennial that really gets plugged in, or anyone for that matter, that really gets plugged in and finds their calling in production. Because I feel like this is a calling. I feel like there is, and I'm constantly reminding our team that you're reaching people in the world you will never see the side of heaven. You'll never know the impact that you have. So I'm big on constantly reminding them and reminding them of the vision and what we're doing here. We're not just here to play with cool equipment and flashy lights and run cool cameras and stuff like that. But we're here, and we're all about the mission. We're all about advancing the kingdom of God. And so I'm constantly reminding them of that. So, I think it's important to find, I think I may have said this yesterday, but I ran the numbers. It's been a while since I did this, but we have a staff probably in our production team of about 50 or 60 people. Of those 50 or 60 people, probably the majority, and I think it's close to probably 80% of them, are under the age of 30. Most of them are under the age of 20, 25. And I'm not talking about kids that don't know what they're doing and just barely getting by. I'm talking about, production professionals, if you will, like people that everything you see that was going on yesterday, the majority of those are younger people, and we're thankful for that. I say that to say, people always ask, how do you get volunteers? How do you get people that are interested in production? The first thing is our Christian school. Our Christian school is a feeder for, number one, music, and number two, production, along with a lot of other things. But there are people that led our tour. Actually, the people that are in this room, Stephanie and Natalie that are back in the back, both started in middle school, running lyrics, running media, running cameras, and they do a great job. Natalie's one of our main media operators in the sanctuary. Stephanie's one of our producers. The people that are in there running this morning, I'm just trying to think of all the people that are running. A lot of them come out of the Christian school. So it's getting the younger generation involved. So Christian school, and also getting students involved, and letting them find a place and find their calling. And that goes back to kind of creating a culture, making it exciting. So it's more than just trying to fill a seat and find someone that can run a camera, find someone that can run media. It's really about building a culture. That's what I like to do. Even inside of, so we have our church culture, but even inside of our church culture, I like to have a production culture. We talked about small groups a little bit last night or yesterday. We have a small group that meets around probably quarterly. That's just our production team, because we are constantly, especially events like this, we're working and nose down and just working as hard as we can. It's nice to kind of unplug and just chill and enjoy each other's company. So we're big on creating that culture and creating an environment where people can come and serve and feel like that they have a place. And I feel like that's just as important as the person on the pulpit, the person in the on the platform. So and you have to be careful with that you have a line that you're not over. You're not burning people out, because that's definitely something that we have to constantly evaluate, where we're involving people to the level that they feel like they're a part of it, but we're not, because if you're not careful, you can get the people that are really, really good at what they're doing, and you're just constantly using them. So that's something that we, I don't want to say struggle with, but that's something that we're constantly reevaluating and making sure what we do. Somebody asked us in the meeting or in our tour yesterday, what we try to do is, and it doesn't always work this way, but we try to work it out where if you serve one service a week, so we're Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, you're serving one service a week in production. Because it's just like with your church, there are people serving in multiple different ministries. So people in coffee shops, people in Sunday school, nursery, parking, ushers. So we don't want to burn them out. And B, we want to make sure that they're in a service. They're hearing the word, because we're one of the ministries that, especially if you're in broadcast upstairs, you can be completely unplugged from the service. It's crazy because you're so involved in what's going on, but you're so disconnected from the content, if that makes sense. So disconnected from what's being said. So we're very intentional about making sure people are being fed, because people can lose their relationship with God serving on a camera or serving behind a console. So we do our best to do that. We are all about excellence here, and that comes from the top down. And I was telling somebody this yesterday, we don't have to, for the most part, we don't have to go and convince our pastoral staff There are some times where we're going like, hey, we'd really like to do this, or we'd really like to upgrade this. But for the most part, the Carpenters and Ericksons are driving change and driving excellence all the time, almost to the point where we're having to play catch up. For a perfect example, I said this yesterday, but the Singapore feed, we didn't realize until like 3 weeks ago that Pastor Lee was not going to be with us here in person. So we had to scramble to find a solution to get him here. So it's top down. It's top down as far as excellence. You know, from the parking lot to cleanliness to the bathrooms to the way that everything looks, the way that the platform looks, to production. Everything we do, it comes from the top down, and it's Sister Carpenter has a saying, and it's something about we bring the gospel in regal robes of royalty. We believe in serving the gospel up in the most excellent form and the most excellent package that we can do it. The gospel stands by itself. It doesn't need lights. It doesn't need sound. It doesn't need haze. It doesn't need video elements. But we believe in presenting the gospel in the best light, in the best way that we can. So that we're intentional about rehearsals. We're intentional about practicing things. There were people here before 7 a.m. this morning, literally running through transitions, running through things. We were here in this room, running through transitions, running through things we're going to do after this. So we're very intentional about making sure we get that right, and then when we don't get it right, kind of learning from our mistakes and doing the best we can. So we're thankful for that, and that's something that I don't have to, like I said, I don't have to pull, and I don't have to really. The pastoral staff is driving the change here. I want to talk a little bit about, in the time that I have left, I'll talk a little bit about some of the positions we have. Some of this may interest you, or it may spark a question, or it may spark an idea. So that's kind of what I'm looking for is hopefully you can kind of say, oh, that would be cool to take back to my church and do that. Or maybe you have questions of how we do that. And if you do, hold those to the end, and I'll do my best to answer as many questions as I can at the end. If you have your book, in the book, we have basically put out our systems. If you go to my breakout session, this looks like this. We've kind of listed some of our main positions here, and I'm just going to go through those and kind of explain this. I did this in the tour yesterday, but maybe this will kind of help some of you guys with your teams. Starting off with a video director. So this person serves the video team as a video team lead, who calls, selects, and executes each shot from a variety of cameras, graphics, and playback sources from both online and iMag, which are screens in the room. So what that is that's the person that's sitting at the switcher. They're calling the shots. They're calling the camera shots as far as how that happens in a service. So that may sound something like ready one, take one, ready two, take two. Real quick. Side note, how many of you were not in the tour yesterday? You did not go to our tour. Okay, a few of you. So some of this stuff I'm going to rehash from yesterday, so hopefully it won't bore you too much. But the video director they're kind of responsible as a lead for video in that service. So they're responsible for calling shots, calling cameras when they're live, and pushing the buttons to make them live from the video standpoint. The camera op, capture the visual experience of each service through the lens of the camera, to think creatively and engage the viewer, whether they are watching in the room or online. That's big for us. We want them, a lot of people say, man, I watch your webcast and I feel like I was there. That's like a high compliment to us, because we want people to feel like they're in the room, feel like that they are getting the same experience as the people that are in the room. So they feel, obviously, you can feel the same presence of God no matter what you do technically, but we want to facilitate that the best that we can to make sure they feel like they're part of that service. And that means, getting shots that are creative and that speak to, the flow of the service, and just going back to making you feel like you're a part of the service, even if you're not. Our camera ops are trained in a way where we train them based on the position that the camera that they're running. So if they are, let's say they're on the platform, they're camera 3 or camera 4. You've probably seen those on the platform this week. One side, basically, we have a box that they stay in. So if you're getting trained on camera 3, your drum side, you're going to stay in that box. You're never going to go to center of platform. You're going to go up to the choir loft, down to the altar, anywhere in that space. But that's your space. You don't go out to the back of the house, back of the sanctuary. You don't go to the center of the platform. This is where you stay. And this is the shots that you get. You're going to get, drums. You're going to get choir, side profiles of praise singers. So we kind of build out okay, here's the expectations of what you're going to do. This is the box that you stay in. If you're on 4, you're on the other side. You're getting key shots. So what that does is we don't have 7 shots of the same thing. So if you watch sports at all, a lot of times in sports, baseball, football, basketball, whatever it is, if you ever notice, there's always a shot of the coach, no matter what happened. If it's a reaction, if there was a call made, they're always going to have a shot of the coach. Well, how do they have that? Because they literally have one person that part of their responsibility is getting a shot of the coach the entire time. So kind of dialing that down into what we do here is we give them responsibilities and tell them, this is the box that you can be creative in. This is where, you need to stay. Not necessarily just stay, but also what shots we're expecting of you. So like our jib shot, the big jib in the back, that's kind of what we call like our beauty shot. It's wide. It's kind of the sweeping shot of the room. If you see it, it's kind of, okay, this is a lot of times it's called an establishing shot. So this is the wide angle of the church. You see that, you're like, okay, I kind of know the lay of the room essentially. And not everybody. So if that shot was constantly a tight shot on pastor, well, that wouldn't work. So we just give them spaces to be creative in, and what that does is the video director doesn't constantly have to ask for a shot. So the video director doesn't constantly have to say, "Hey, give me a shot of Sister Erickson on the keyboard with just her hands," or "Give me a shot of Sister Hammond side profile." These 99 times out of 100. Video directors are never asking for a shot. So they just, they're just, the camera people, I've told them this before, they're almost a salesman, okay? So they're selling the shot. So they're getting that shot and finding what they can get, and they're selling that to the video director. And the video director is going to take that. So that's kind of what we put in their head and tell them to do from that regard. So that's kind of how the process works with that. And I think that's a lot of times that kind of helps churches because if you leave it up to the video director, if you leave it up to whoever, a lot of times you're not going to get, it's hard to just constantly say, okay, I need a shot of this. So we put it in the camera ops. We constantly train. We're training. Somebody asked, how do we train? Usually when we bring somebody on, if you're going to be a camera op, you're going to be trained in rehearsal. So we have a crew call that's at the very least an hour before service. So that hour before service, we're running everything as if it's a live service. So cameras are running, media's running, lights are running, video elements are running, producers calling cues, directors cutting cameras. Everything's running as if it was a live service. So that gives the opportunity for the person that's being trained to learn how to run that camera, to learn what they need to do. So that's how that works. Hopefully that helps you out on that front. So producer, we're going to move on to the third item here. Producer, provide support, information, and direction to production team to better execute elements for each service. Serve as the liaison between the production team members, the platform team members, and the pastoral staff. Call cues and transitions in the service as they are happening. This is a big role for us. It was a game changer when we introduced it. It doesn't cost anything, so go back into your churches and implement this if it's needed. Again, cost is almost zero. So what this person does is they're, just as it says there, they're a liaison between production team members, platform team members, and pastoral staff. So they're kind of the project manager or the lead of the service from a technical perspective. They're kind of marrying all the elements from production to music to pastoral staff and making sure everybody's talking where they need to talk and not talking where they don't need to talk. I said this yesterday that the producer and the video director are the ones that are talking the most, and pretty much the only ones that are talking in a service on headset. The video director's calling cameras, where the producer is talking to everyone and calling cues. So that may be like, okay, stand by, walk-in transition. So you've seen this week we've done some, we don't introduce the preacher, we've done like a walk-in video. So the producer will call, stand by, walk-in transition in 3, 2, 1, go. So lights know what to do, graphics knows what to do, audio knows what mic to take, or that may sound like, this is a song we're singing. Sister Hammond has verse 1, mic 3. And all of this is being communicated in a headset. So that's something that we implemented, and it sounds so simple, but it literally keeps us on track, especially for bigger events like this. That's my phone that's going off. I was like, what is that? Sorry. So that's something that we've implemented, and it keeps us on track during a service, especially for big events like this when there's a lot of elements going on. So I encourage you, if that's something that's needed in your church, like I said, it's don't have to have any special equipment to do it. The only thing I would say is some type of communication, comms, or and you can get those relatively cheap, or maybe not. Maybe it's just Stephanie's acting as our producer back here, and she's not on comms. She's just making sure that everybody back there knows what we're doing next, and that everything kind of flows as it should. So that's that. Media. So we run English and Spanish, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But the media op is they help facilitate an environment of worship for the platform, congregation, and online audience by providing lyric and scripture support. I think you guys know what media is. We use ProPresenter 7 for lyrics and scriptures, English and Spanish. And we use a software called Resolume for our graphics op. So all graphics that go to the screen, that go to what we call our banner wall, the wall that's kind of behind all the singers, everything that goes online, everything that's graphic related or video related runs through our position that's called graphics. So we actually split those roles, where normally they're kind of the same. We'll split those roles into one person's doing lyrics and scriptures, one person is doing all graphic elements, and then another person's doing the Spanish version of that. So we simulcast in Spanish on Sunday mornings. Basically what we do is we have in another part of the building, we have somebody in a room that's translating everything that's spoken in English. There's translating that to Spanish. And then our media operator for Spanish is running Pro 7 for Spanish. So obviously everything's translated in Spanish, all the lyrics, all the scriptures. So that's kind of cool. And we've had pretty good success with that. Graphics, I've already kind of talked about that. Supports each service with visual elements needed, including intros, countdowns, videos, sermon elements, lower thirds, banner wall elements, and animation videos. So again, they're running all graphic elements. They have the ability to not only run that, but take that to the screen or take it to online, take it to the banner wall, whatever they need to do. They can do that. Webcast serves as a point of contact and general information for our online viewers, properly archive each service on all platforms. They're kind of the liaison, if you will, between our online audience and our team. So if someone stumbles upon us and says, where are you guys located? Or who is, what church is this? Or, can you pray for my mom? Or whatever it is. They're there to kind of interact with them. They're also there to make sure that everything goes smoothly as far as archives and make sure we're online and we're live where we need to be. Lighting, provides creative visual elements in the room via lighting scenes and fixtures that complement the flow of worship and the word. The cue lighting changes seamlessly as the worship service progresses. That's pretty straightforward. We've kind of upgraded our lighting lately for this week specifically. And one cool thing that we have implemented, and I talked about it a little bit yesterday. I feel like I'm saying that a lot, but I talked about it a lot yesterday, and I'm trying to remember everything that I talked about. But one thing that we implemented just a few weeks ago is something called time code. And not to get super technical, but what time code allows us to do, if you ever, anybody know what MIDI is? M-I-D-I, MIDI? Anybody ever use MIDI? Okay, so MIDI basically is, it does a lot of things. It's a communication technology that allows you to play. It's used in keyboards and keys where you can play certain sounds on keys. But on the Pro Presenter and Ableton side of things, what it allowed us to do was cue. So if we had a lyric video, let's say that we had a lyric video and it had to follow a track, word for word. What we would do is we'd produce a note or a cue from Ableton, from our tracks computer, that would fire that MIDI cue to Pro Presenter. And when Pro Presenter heard that cue, it would fire the song. So then everything theoretically would be in sync. The problem is, theoretically, it doesn't always work that way. So if you miss that cue, if it misses that cue, if something happened, if anything was out of sort, you're done. So like we produced a bunch of lyric videos for our Christmas Spectacular. We had a big opener, and it didn't fire. And it's like, all that work, hours of work that, nobody ever seen. So we're done with MIDI. This is, we never can get it right. So we started looking into time code. So what time code does, and again, this isn't like a software or hardware, it's really just a technology. Because somebody's like, how much is time code? Well, it's not really something you buy. So I'll try to explain it the best I can, and we can answer questions about it. But basically what time code is if you listen to it, it's an audible tone that almost sounds like dial-up internet. If you go listen to, listen to it online, it sounds like you're playing a dial-up internet sound. But what it does is the computer knows that sound where you're at in the song or where you're at in the service. So time code runs in 24-hour formats. So let's say, like the opener, we had it set at hour 1 just to have a marker. So at hour 1, 01000000, it fired. When Ableton fired, when our tracks operator fired the track, everything synced up. The cool thing about timecode is if it stops or if we go back into the chorus or if something happens, whatever, it's going to constantly track the entire song, service, whatever you have. It's never going to come out of, it's not like a one-shot thing. So that was like game changer for us. That was something that, because we were having issues with MIDI, so that was just something that, so what we did was we integrated our Resolute computer, which is running graphics, and our lighting console to listen to timecode. So again, all they're doing is listening to that code, and they know, okay, at this point, and then when we program lights, we could just say, at this point, do this. So what we do is kind of like when you're recording audio, if you know anything about audio, it's almost like we would make passes on the song. So we'd play a song and say, okay, we're going to do a bump sequence here where the lights do this. Okay, we're going to go back and do, so several passes. So anyway, time code was like a game changer. It really helped us sync everything up as far as lyric videos. They did one this morning. I know some of you guys, some of y'all in the worship set, they did, actually it's an original song that our creative team wrote, Apostolic Collective wrote, that we did a lyric video and a lighting sequence based on time code. So anyway, that's a rabbit trail, but if that interests you, we were pretty proud of it. So, and if you've done MIDI and you've been frustrated with MIDI, I would suggest looking into timecode. And again, it's not like it's a how much is timecode thing. If you're already running Ableton, you could probably run timecode. I think Pro Presenter will listen to timecode. I need to check on that, but I think it will. But that'd be kind of a cool thing to implement in your service. Stagehand serves as the on-stage facilitator of any request that pastor or producer might have to have great communication skills to pass information clearly and on time to everyone on stage. So they're just assisting our production team, assisting people, especially in events like this, bringing things on and off the stage, assisting audio, assisting the producer. They're kind of usually up front with the pastoral staff if there's anything that they need to take care of. The front of house audio tech facilitates moments of worship in the room. This is our sound guy. You guys know what a sound guy is. We just made a cool title for him and gave him a paragraph just to make him feel important. That's a sound guy. That's all he does. You guys know what sound people do. They're very much needed, but yeah, that's what they do. We do run broadcast audio tech, so they're monitoring audio levels for the online platforms in order for worship and the word to be heard clearly from remote audiences. So we are running a separate, we're not running a separate mix. We're monitoring and adjusting levels as needed separately in broadcast, but we're not, a lot of churches or some churches will what they call submix or mix for the broadcast. We don't do that here. We never have really needed it. We've talked about it several times. Our thing is we have, 2, 3, 4 really good sound people, and it's hard to just replicate that, 2 times, 3 times, whatever. So, we do good to get sound techs and get them in the front of house position, and it's worked and it sounds good. So we're like, if it's not broke, we're not going to fix it kind of thing. And then that assistant basically is there. This is another cool thing to have if you're going to do a producer. So the assistant is the front of house tech in each service. They assist the front of house tech in each service and serves as a communication liaison to and from other members of the production team and pastoral leadership. So one thing they're listening to is the producer. So as the producer is giving those audio cues of mic numbers, certain things that are coming up, they're listening for that. Because normally a sound guy, it's not a good idea to have him wear a headset. So we have them wear a headset and they're listening to those cues. So yeah, that's been that's been something we've implemented recently, and it's worked really well for us. That's what I have as far as in the book. I want to hear what you guys, the burning questions you have, or maybe something you're doing at your church. I'm all about learning from other people. We don't claim to know it all by no means. We are learning as we go. Let me tell you what, the last 3 weeks have been the learning curve for a lot of things to make movement happen. So we are here to learn and do the best we can. So with that, what questions do you have? Anything that I can go over? Yes, sir. Yes. So archiving and what platforms are we broadcasting to? So what I mean by archiving is we want to make sure that it's really not that complicated, but we want to make sure somebody's managing like the thumbnail, make sure everything's trimmed and so as it should be. So I'm not saying we do this great, but we're trying our best to, when you go back and watch our archive, it doesn't start in a weird spot. It's not like 10 seconds of black at the beginning. When you hit play, it's like, boom, it's in the opener, it's in the countdown. So that person's managing that. They're making sure the title's in there correctly. So pastor's title or whoever's preaching their title, the service name, we have like a format that we go in, thumbnail, and making sure it's archived, Facebook, YouTube, and it's also on our website. So that's kind of what I mean by archiving. We are going to those platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and our website currently. We've talked about doing some smart TV stuff. If Facebook keeps making me mad, I might just dump Facebook. Amen. I'm done with Facebook. Oh, but we have such a following on it that it's like and this is my soapbox for about 10 seconds, but we pay to have copyright. We pay to sing the songs, and we will gladly pay the amount that needs to be paid to sing and make sure everybody gets paid. I'm all about that. We do that. But there's no way to tell Facebook, hey, look, we have a copyright license, or that's not the right word, but we've paid to sing this song. Every time we sing a CC Winan song, it gets flagged. It's like, come on, CC, help us out. If I see it on PCO, I'm like, it's going to get flagged. At the very least, it's going to get muted, which is, okay, it got muted. We've had it before where, like, it gets completely taken down. It's like the first song in a set, service done. No, like, it doesn't get archived. Nobody watches it. I mean, it's over. So, anyway, soapbox, frustration. So, but, yeah, it's Facebook, so what do you do? I hope that answered your question. Anything else? Anybody else have a question? Yes, sir, in the front. Brother Phillips. Is that right? Yes, sir. Yeah, good question. So it's not that complicated. So the way that we did was, and I'm not an Ableton guru. When I have to be in it, I'm usually like, somebody needs to teach me this one day, because like I'm never in it, and occasionally I have to be in it for like time code and stuff. So I've told Luke Stumbo, and he usually runs it. I'm like, we need to sit down and just train me one day. But so basically the way it works is you just add a track in Ableton. So it's just another track. And then in Ableton, you tell those tracks where to output to. Okay, so you have a track rig, or you have Dante. Like we run Dante, which is audio over network. So it's easy to just say track 1 is BGVs, track 2, or track 1 is BGVs left, track 2 is BGVs right, track 3 is whatever, music left and right, and then track 5 is click, track 6 is guide. So like track 8 was time code. So we just dropped. What we did was we went online. There's several free resources that you go in and you just say, I need a time code for an hour. I need it to be, this is the very important thing. Frame rate's important. So if you know about frame rate in video, you have like 2997, 30, 5994. That's super important in time code, because time code is a video. When it was created years ago, it's a video first technology. So it listens to frame rate. So if you go in, just a word of caution, if you create a video that's like 5994 and your time code's 2997, eventually that time code's either going to get off, or we had an issue when we first started doing it 2-3 weeks ago where our Resolume computer was set wrong, so it was just jittery the whole time through. So make sure your time code's right. But the free resources I was talking about, there's 2 or 3. There's one that's called, the term for time code is LTC, like Lincoln Tom Charles. I think it stands for linear time code. So, and I can't remember how it's spelled, but it's like, if you just search L, like ELLTEE, I can't remember how it is. I'll have to Google it. But it's basically, if you just search download time code, it will create a time code for you. So you can tell it how long it needs to be. I'm Googling this now. And it will produce the time code, and then you can download it. Stand by. LTC2 is one of them. Anyway, there's several. I can't remember how it's spelled, but it's spelled like it's like a phonetic pronunciation, LTC. That's what we did, and we just downloaded the time code. So then you download that audio file. It's just a WAV file. You drop it in, and so from there, you're outputting. So at this point, you're outputting that time code to your console, or you're outputting it somewhere. At the very least, you could plug an XLR cable to your computer and output it that way. From there, what we actually did is brought it into the console, which I would probably recommend. Bring it into the console, and then we just did a direct out of the console to our lighting computer, and then we did Dante to our graphics computer. I hope that's not too muddy, but basically those computers just need to have almost like a mix out, or consoles need to have a mix out, or something that's listening to it. However, just think of it as a microphone. That's all it is. At the very least, it's just a mic. It's just an input. So it just needs to go to those locations. So however you want to do it. Dante's the easiest, and Dante's fairly cheap, especially when we're talking about like Dante Virtual Sound Card. You could do Dante Virtual Sound Card on your Trax computer, and then put Dante Virtual Sound Card on your graphics computer, and then you spent $60, I think. I think they're $30 each, and you've got Dante, and you could patch it however you want. Does anybody use Dante in the building, in the room? Yes, I love Dante. So we're Dante up here. So I actually, after this, we have the Lees from Singapore again, or actually their team is going to do a session. So I patched in what we had in the sanctuary yesterday. I patched in the feed from Singapore that was coming over Dante, and I patched the feed from us going back to Singapore that's over Dante. And again, as far as at the basic level, it's relatively inexpensive to do Dante. You can, obviously you have hardware that comes along with Dante, but that's what I would recommend. Is Dante's the easiest way, but at the basic level, you're just trying to get that signal into a computer or whatever's listening to timecode. Did that make sense? Somebody else had a question. Yes, sir, in the back. Yeah, good question. Because a lot of people don't usually, especially during COVID and kind of post-COVID, the majority of churches went online. So people were looking at, cameras and stuff, but a lot of times when they look at cameras, they don't. It's kind of a trifecta there. You got the video aspect of it, you have the audio aspect of it, which is just as important at video. I don't want to watch a service that, excuse me, I don't want to watch a service that, you can have great video and have not great audio. And, it's hard to watch. So those are equally important. And the third thing that is just as important is lighting. So what we do is, and what I've found, these are just, honestly, probably, I think they're the cheaper, what we call China lights. They're PARs, so they're not great for video. What I would recommend, you can do, if you're going to do PARs, I would recommend Chauvet makes a Colorado Quad 1, I think it is. Those are pretty good. You want to find something that has the ability to do color temperature. So if you know anything about color temperature, these aren't great in here, but ideally, you would dial this down to a not so harsh of a blue light, more of a warmer light. So color temperature, you have, like when you go to Walmart or Lowe's or whatever, you buy color lights, or you buy light bulbs that have like a warm light or a cool light. That's kind of how color temperature is measured. So you want to have something that has the ability to do color temperature. A lot of times, if you look for lights that are RGB, which stands for red, green, blue, and then a lot of times they have AW after that. That's amber white. That kind of helps you usually dial in color temperature. The higher end ones are not necessarily higher end ones, but the a little bit more expensive ones have the ability to actually dial up a color temperature number. So I'd recommend that. We use the light type we use in the sanctuary is called Fresnels. So it's Fresnels, I think. That's just the light type. The ones that we use, and it's in our QR code if you do our tour, but they're Ovations, they're Chauvet Ovation 915s. But Fresnels, PARs, that's what I would recommend for a key light, and make sure they have the ability to do amber, and make sure they have the ability to do color temperature. I definitely would do some backlight. That kind of helps you separate your subject, your talent from the wall or from the back. And helps with shadows. So those are some of the things that I would consider. What else? Front row. So you're running your tracks from your platform. Yeah. It's the same. It's the same scenario. You're just going to drop in, like I said. And we don't do it every song, and we're not going to do it every song. If you have something special, that's the only time we're really going to use it, because you really don't need it for, I mean, I guess you could do it for every song, and you could sync everything up. That's a lot of work, and we're not going to do it, but you guys can. But it's the same scenario. The same thing. No matter where you're playing tracks from. So are you just playing like a stereo left out? Do you know if it's just a one input out? Okay. So that's the next thing to look at, is just see if you're sending out multiple things. Like a lot of times you just do click and track. Sometimes you just do. Okay. So I would look at investing in what's called a track rig. You could either do track rig or you could do Dante. We use a track rig up here, and it's actually in the back, I think. No, actually, we use Dante here because we're all on Dante now. If you're the kicker here is going to be your sound console. Do you know what it is? X32? Okay. That's a pretty popular one. It has a card that you can buy for Dante. It is I don't remember how much it is. It's $800. So $800 for a card. Or if that's the only thing you're going to do on Dante, honestly, track rig would probably be a little bit less expensive, I think. But then all you're doing is just adding a channel that can do time code out. So if that's channel 6 on your track rig, you're going to take that and bring that to your graphics computer or your media computer for time code. Are you thinking like more for video lights or both? Both. Okay. So yeah, maybe we could talk afterwards, but we would need to look at seeing what kind of console you have, lighting console you have, and what kind of software you have to make that work. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about time code, so I'm willing to talk. Yeah, so you can do Dante. I think, like I said, the kicker is going to be getting the Dante into your console. So if that's an investment you want to do with like the card, absolutely. We have it here. I love it. It works great. But if not, then I would probably go track rig. I think I have time for like maybe one more question. Yes, sir. Yeah, so we set it up as a matrix on comms. It's a good question. So what we do is what that means is every person hears what they need to hear and they don't hear what they don't need to hear. So we can kind of program it. So if I'm producer, I can talk to everyone. I have several switches. I can talk to everyone, or I can talk just directly to somebody else. The producer's talking to everyone, but she also has the ability to talk just to audio, just to video. Obviously, our video people are just talking on the video channel because there's no sense in hearing ready one, take one on the audio channel. So we kind of separate those out where they're separate, depending on what they need to hear. If you guys haven't already, I think there are still some tickets available. If this interests you, we can talk more about what we do. We have a tour today, a production tour at 2:30 in the grand lobby. We will go through all of this, and I'll answer all of your questions. I'm also in the back of the book, Front Porch Media, so that's my company. I have an audio-video integration company. So if I can help you guys at all, my phone number's there, my website's there. I'm happy to talk about all of this. This is my ministry, happy to help out other churches, love seeing other churches advance the kingdom with technology. Thank you so much for being here. It means a lot that you would come and listen to me ramble about technology. If I can help you at all, please let me know. Have a great day at the movement. God bless you.